What if I told you the biggest power move in women's basketball didn't happen during a game? It happened behind the scenes. Because professional sports isn't about friendships or feel-good locker room speeches. It's a ruthless business where the only thing that matters is value. Either you're the engine driving the money, the attention, the entire league forward, or you're just another passenger along for the ride. And for nearly 25 years, the WNBA has looked a lot like a league full of passengers. Teams were operating inside a billion-dollar ecosystem but still bleeding cash, surviving largely because of NBA support. Meanwhile, a group of veteran players built this image of being untouchable icons of the sport. Then everything changed the moment Caitlyn Clark stepped onto the court. Overnight, she shattered viewership records, packed arenas, and injected billions in attention into the league. But instead of celebrating the momentum, the reaction from certain corners of the establishment felt hostile. Now the WNBA Players Association is threatening something massive, talking about strikes, demanding max contracts, housing perks, and a 50% revenue split from billionaire owners. They think the leverage is on their side. But here's the twist: the strategy might be collapsing in real time. Because while the politics got louder, Caitlyn Clark stayed quiet and made a move that might be one of the smartest plays in modern sports. At Team USA's training camp, without throwing a single public jab, she showed the entire world exactly who the league truly depends on. The message was crystal clear: the WNBA might need Caitlyn Clark to survive, but Caitlyn Clark doesn't need the WNBA. And the footage coming out of that camp? It's not just practice highlights. It's a psychological statement aimed directly at the veterans trying to control the narrative. Take a look at this.
They're doing some drills here. Let's see them cook up for a little bit. Chelsea, no look. Caitlyn, side dribble. Main thing is they're enjoying themselves, man. I love it. Okay, Angel to Stu, easy work. It seems like Caitlyn is hanging with Kelsey a lot. Paige always yelling. Paige yelling about anything these days.
That was pretty incredible to watch, right? No tension, no drama, just pure basketball energy. What you're seeing there is Caitlyn Clark, Breanna Stewart, and the next generation of American stars actually enjoying the game at the highest level. They're laughing, competing, shouting USA together, the exact opposite of the dark cloud hanging over the WNBA right now. Because while Team USA looks loose and energized, the league back home is drowning in a brutal labor fight. Veteran union leaders have pushed this narrative that players are pressed by billionaire owners, turning every headline into a battle fueled by anger, resentment, and constant strike threats. The environment has gotten so toxic that even people inside the union are leaking letters to ESPN asking for transparency. But here's the twist nobody expected: Caitlyn Clark didn't engage in the chaos. Instead, she stepped onto the Team USA court radiating pure joy, and that single move completely wrecked the union's entire PR strategy. Without saying a word, she sent a loud message to sponsors, TV networks, and team owners: if you want a premium, drama-free superstar who brings fans, ratings, and global attention, I'm right here. While the WNBPA looks chaotic and desperate, Clark is shining like a global brand. And that shift is exposing something uncomfortable. The toxicity surrounding women's basketball isn't some unavoidable system problem. It's being fueled by a small group of veterans trying to hold on to power. The union believed they could trap Clark in their labor battle and use her popularity as leverage against the owners. But Clark flipped the entire script. Instead of playing politics, she stepped onto the biggest international stage in the sport and quietly changed the power balance overnight. And when you analyze this situation through a business lens, the miscalculation becomes obvious. In high-stakes negotiations, you don't bluff billionaires, especially when you don't have an alternative market. Yet some veterans believed their star power alone could carry the league without Caitlyn Clark. So they tried to prove it by launching a separate ecosystem, the unrivaled 3-on-3 league, hoping fans would show up regardless. The result? Ratings collapsed almost immediately. The moment fans realized number 22 wasn't on the court, they started switching channels. Network executives who were banking on a Caitlyn Clark ratings explosion suddenly found themselves scrambling. And the situation got even worse when key players like Aaliyah Boston picked up injuries in games that barely moved the needle financially. In other words, the veterans played their biggest card, and the market answered with brutal honesty. Without Caitlyn Clark, national attention disappears. But when the true golden goose steps onto the court, everything changes. Watch this.
Mind you, look at the teams while y'all looking too. Look, Angel knocking them down, dog. I know it's quick. Caitlyn with the game winner. Caitlyn with the game winner, dog. Got the stun on him, come on.
That clip right there, that's the whole story. Caitlyn Clark pulling up and drilling a game winner. In one moment you see the entire business model of modern women's basketball. That's the product networks pay billions for. That's the generational magnet that pulls the entire sports world's attention toward the WNBA. When shots like that go viral in seconds, it's not just a highlight, it's money, leverage, and global market power all wrapped into one player. And you better believe the people running the league are watching closely. Owners and executives across the league are looking at that footage and doing the math in real time. When a billionaire watches Clark hit a clutch shot and the internet explodes within minutes, they're not just seeing a talented rookie. They're seeing an irreplaceable asset. They're seeing the one player capable of shifting television deals, sponsorships, and the entire financial future of the league. Now here's where things get real. If the WNBA Players Association actually follows through with the strike threat, the owners aren't going to panic the way some people think. Because the brutal truth of professional sports is simple, the market always decides who truly holds the leverage. And right now the one player completely insulated from the chaos is Caitlyn Clark. If a season gets delayed, the veterans lose paychecks, visibility, and momentum overnight. But Clark, her brand keeps growing. Her audience keeps expanding. The spotlight doesn't disappear, it simply moves wherever she plays. That's the difference between a good player and a generational phenomenon. And this is the uncomfortable reality nobody wants to say out loud. The strike fight isn't really about rookies trying to survive in the league. In fact, many younger players and their agents are quietly pushing for a deal because they just want to play basketball and build careers. The real power struggle is coming from an old guard that spent decades controlling a small, tight circle within the league. For years they set the locker room hierarchy, dictated respect from rookies, and controlled the narrative around the sport. Then Caitlyn Clark arrived from Iowa and flipped the entire ecosystem upside down. She shattered viewership records, brought millions of brand new fans into women's basketball, landed massive endorsement deals, and suddenly the center of gravity shifted away from the old leadership. That kind of change is hard for any establishment to accept. Because when a 22-year-old phenom walks in and instantly becomes the face of the sport, it rewrites the power structure overnight. And now with her second season approaching, healthier, more confident, and fully adapted to the pro game, the fear is that her dominance will only grow. That's why the current labor battle feels so intense. Some veterans are willing to risk everything just to prove they still control the league's direction. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Caitlyn Clark didn't fight back with trash talk, politics, or social media drama. Instead, she responded the most powerful way an athlete can, by letting her game speak louder than everything else. Calm, focused, clutch. And in doing that, she may have just delivered the ultimate checkmate. Now the question is bigger than one season or one labor dispute. The real question is this: is the WNBA ready to embrace the future that Caitlyn Clark represents, or will the league keep battling itself while the biggest opportunity in its history slips away? If you want more deep breakdowns like this on the biggest stories shaking women's basketball, make sure you hit subscribe and join the WNBA Vibe community, because trust me, this story is just getting started. Basketball and hoop fire.
Man, I think, this is every kid's dream. I think I wrote it down when I was in like 3rd grade, so I'm just excited about this opportunity. And I remember Kara Callan talking to us, like when me and Paige, and I know AB isn't here, but even I played with Ryan on the U19 team. Like on the junior national teams, there's only going to be like a couple of you that end up making it to make a senior debut. So whether that's the World Cup, whether the World Cup qualifier, whether that's, the Olympics, every single part of it and part of the journey is really special. So I know we're a ways away even from the World Cup and obviously a ways away from the Olympics, but this is still really exciting.
That statement you just heard, that's not just media training, that's elite composure under the brightest spotlight in sports. Caitlyn Clark steps up to the microphone and calls this moment every kid's dream. No arrogance, no ego, no drama. She shows respect for the platform, honors the journey, and positions herself exactly how a global superstar should, as a humble student of the game. And whether people realize it or not, that single approach is quietly dismantling the narrative some veterans have been trying to push for months. The old guard wanted to paint Clark as entitled. They tried to frame her fanbase as toxic. They wanted the world to believe they were the noble protectors of basketball tradition. But Clark refuses to play the villain in that story. She doesn't fire back on social media, she doesn't get dragged into mudslinging. Instead, she stands in front of international cameras and acts like the ultimate professional, calm, respectful, and completely locked in. And by doing that, she's exposing something the league can't hide anymore. Because while Clark is presenting the sport to the world with professionalism and excitement, the WNBA's labor situation looks chaotic in comparison, a messy internal battle filled with passive-aggressive messaging and threats that could damage the league itself. Meanwhile, Clark has already stepped outside that entire storm. With Team USA preparing for major international competition, she's about to play meaningful, high-stakes basketball in front of millions of global viewers. No politics. No locker room drama. Just elite competition on one of the biggest stages in the sport. And that's the moment where the power dynamics really start shifting. While the union leadership talks about pressing the nuclear button with a strike deadline, the billionaires running the league aren't staring at the veterans, they're watching Clark. Because she's the one asset sitting completely outside the blast radius. If chaos hits the league, her platform doesn't shrink, it expands. Global tournaments, international broadcasts, sponsorship deals, the spotlight simply follows wherever she goes. And that's the nightmare scenario for anyone trying to use a strike as leverage. Because if a lockout actually happens, the fallout could be brutal. New fans could drift away, the league's momentum could stall, and ownership groups might respond by restructuring the entire business model once the dust settles. And when the smoke clears, one thing is almost guaranteed: Caitlyn Clark will still be the biggest draw in women's basketball. The ratings, the sponsorships, the crowds, they'll still move when she steps on the floor. That's the cold reality of sports economics. It's not about reputation or seniority. It's about impact. Either you move the financial needle, or the business moves on without you. So now I want to hear from you. Is the WNBA union pushing this labor battle too far? Are veteran players risking a lockout that could backfire financially? Or do you think the owners will be forced to cave before things reach that point? And one more question. Just how massive do you think the global ratings will be when Caitlyn Clark takes the court with Team USA while this drama unfolds in the background? Drop your take in the comments because this debate is heating up fast. And if you want more unfiltered breakdowns of the biggest stories in women's basketball, the power struggles, the business moves, and the moments that shape the future of the game, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with another basketball fan. This is WNBA Vibe, and we're just getting started. Basketball and hoop fire.